Yeah, because this is actually Monday. We didn't record Sunday because honestly, I had a good feeling. Was not, I was shocked I actually stayed awake through the whole episode. I was like exhausted.
Yeah.
I don't think I even made it through. You know how like they were talking about The Last of Us episode 4, and if you watch it on Max, they show you, the show, then it's the trailer for next week, or at least what's coming up, some credits, and then they go into behind the scenes about like things that were important in that. And I did not make it through that. I remember
See,
like
I
waking up
actually
at
watched part of it for the first time.
did you? Did you?
I watched part of it, and then it got towards they started talking about Isaac Jeffrey Wright, and
Mhm.
then I was getting tired, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll finish this one later. But I actually stayed through and saw the trailer for next week or for the next weeks, and then part of their little discussion.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice. So let's get right into it. We're going to talk about episode 4, and obviously this one is Ellie and I believe Danny.
Dina.
Is it Dina? Dina, yes, Danny. Dina are in Seattle. They see bodies, skeletons on the ground,
Wearing
and
Fedra gear.
him.
Wearing Fedra gear.
Oh yeah, Fedra gear, and you kind of get an allusion to earlier in the episode how the episode begins with Jeffrey Wright and his time working with Fedra and his encounters with the WLF. And it's very sad they come across pride flags, have no idea what they mean because this is, I believe, in 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2003. So they're kind of unaware of all that's going on. And let's see, they find some bodies in I believe, a TV station or a radio station that were gutted by the Scars slash Seraphites.
Yes.
The WLF show up, or some, members show up, see the bodies, are scouting around for remaining Scars to take to Jeffrey Wright's character Isaac. And he's like Jeffrey Wright's character Isaac to when you find out how he handles talking to them. But in the meantime, they stumble across Ellie and Dina, who then handle them, have no problems in killing them,
Yeah.
and take off, enter into, I believe, an abandoned like subway train station area. And when Dina starts, they're so
Well, they
used
thought it
to,
was abandoned.
right. They're so used to Jackson coming across a few of the infected where she's counting that she literally just stops counting because it's a horde of infected
Yeah.
that show up and attack them in the subway. They escape, and Ellie, without thinking, sticks her arm because one goes to bite Dina. Ellie sticks her arm out, knowing she is immune, sticks her arm out to protect Dina, gets bit. Dina sees this, and her reaction is to pull a gun on Ellie, and rightfully so,
Yeah.
but I don't think Ellie in that moment even remembered that Dina didn't know she was immune. So tells um Dina, hey, keep a gun on me. Basically, or in season 1, what Joel and I can't remember the other lady name, but
Oh, yeah, his old partner.
yeah, and basically the same thing that they did is they stayed awake all night with across the room, gun pointed at her, just until they believed that she was immune. So did the same thing. Obviously, it, it's revealed that yes, she is indeed, to Dina, that she is indeed immune. Dina reveals she's pregnant. They have an intimate moment, and then now that they're together and they assess the Seattle situation in the morning, they see explosions. They're like, well, now that we've got like this whole thing going on, should we get involved? Ellie doesn't want Dina involved. Obviously, she's pregnant and she's in love with her. Dina's like, no, we're together, so we're doing this together. And that's how the episode ends. I skipped over, not meaning to, but how the episode begins with some Fedra soldiers basically mocking people who they've taken the right to vote away from. And you can kind of see then that I didn't know, but you knew instantly Jeffrey Wright's character Isaac was not jiving with the philosophies of what Fedra was doing.
Yes.
They come across some WLF members. He goes out to talk to them, and in the meantime, it is revealed that he is essentially setting the federal soldiers up to get killed and join the WLF, and giving the new soldier who seemed a little green around the ears the choice to join or
Gave him a
not.
chance.
Right. And then you
His
see
soul
later,
wasn't gone yet, so he gave him a
yes,
chance.
right. So he thought there's a little bit of hope in this one, which flash forward to today, his soul is now gone
Yes.
through Jeffrey Wright's group, in joining the WLF, and they're torturing Jeffrey Wright's character Isaac is torturing a Seraphite, realizes it's pretty hopeless because some of them are very committed and do not mind torture in the least because of the Almighty Prophet. And so basically, he's traded one group of, uh, you know, what's the word?
Overlords.
Huh?
Overlords.
Yes, for another. Like,
Yeah.
essentially have become, like he traded his soul for one group to another. So, is there anything in that episode that I missed? I mean,
No,
that
I
was
think you
just
got it. It was
okay.
very contained within the characters that it showcased. The two characters that we already knew with Ellie and Dina, and then Jeffrey Wright, Isaac, and his his little sidekick. Those are pretty much the four main characters this episode.
Right. And basically the other character that's in it is Seattle, and the fact is
Yes.
they left, they were fighting the infected, but in a very, very contained, isolated way in Jackson, Wyoming. They come out here and they realize we I might have traded, comfort and my need for vengeance to something that is way outside of my league
Yes.
of because
Yes.
now not only do you have the infected, but you have the militaristic WLF who is fighting Fedra, who is fighting the Seraphites, the Horde. I mean, like there's a lot more that's going on, and we
It's
don't.
weird to say, but you were in Wyoming. You had an advantage, I guess you could say. It was a very close-knit community.
Right,
Obviously, there was imminent danger all the time, but you felt safer. You guys had your schedules down and all of that. You left that to go on a revenge tour. And yeah, it's almost like, not to say you got soft, but like you thought you were just going to go over there, find this group, and take them out. And you realize that there's a lot more that's happening outside of your
bubble,
Wyoming shelter.
yes,
And it's kind of like when blanking on her name, Abby and her group went to Wyoming and thought it would be a
right,
tent city and saw how big it was. It was
a
kind of like
community,
both
right.
both teams are trading shock value now.
Right, right. And it's like how much, like, things might be communicated throughout these groups across the country, but not enough to for any of them to have a clear idea of how the other is living.
Correct.
Like, it's not a militaristic zone in Jackson. It's very much a community and a communal help, and it's socialism at its finest, and everybody's pitching in, everybody's helping, everybody's expected to guard the wall. Those who can't are sheltered, but very open. People are gardening, learning how to play instruments.
Yeah.
Yes, they're going out and searching for the infected to kind of still keep that bubble nice and safe around them. But until that horde attack, they really hadn't been dealing with too much. They talk about strangers and outside and how we have to cut
Correct.
down on how many people they accept into the society, but it's nothing like what's apparently going on in Seattle.
Right.
And they get a little taste of it on their way to Seattle when they see the bodies of the scars/seraphites in the woods, and find out that they see in one hand that, oh, look, the WLF members are doing this to innocent people. And then they get to Seattle and see, oh, well, the scars are disemboweling WLF. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
these,
they're both bad guys in this situation.
right? And as of right now, and I did listen to the HBO official podcast this morning. They will not explain, or they are not going to explain in this season, the divide between the WLF and like they by what the breaking
Oh,
like
I
they
watched some TikTok videos that explained it, so I'm
okay.
I'm not like
Okay.
yeah, I got a little deep dive into it kind of. So yeah.
Yeah, but they don't. The producers, the writers of the show, the creators of the show, they said after they were just like they were given the green light for season three that they just really like they were like, hey, we're gonna keep some things in the holster,
I'm okay
so
with
to
that.
huh?
I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I am too. Like he and I appreciated to kind of go off on topic for a little bit. I appreciate because the guy asked him, do you feel like if you're unsure if you're going to get a next season, how do you write that? Do you write that like, well, maybe we should reveal some things just in case we don't get a next season? He said no. He goes, because I don't think anybody should write from a place of being scared, which I he's like, you have to write with confidence
Yeah.
that it's going to be picked up. And as we've seen with the Acolyte, not everything is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but I can appreciate I think I have a little bit more of appreciation of people who like sometimes if they don't have a show picked up, they still wrote from a place of confidence that it would be and it just wasn't. So
Yeah.
yes, we are not going to get the full, you know, I don't say class division, but maybe like soldier division, belief division.
Yeah.
Uh,
They'll drop little breadcrumbs because I mean,
sure.
during Isaac Jeffrey Wright's interrogation, let's just give a round of applause to Jeffrey Wright. That guy just phenomenal.
Yeah. Side note, if you have not seen American Fiction, it's
Yes.
streaming somewhere. Please go see it. It was one of my favorite movies, I believe, of 2023, but just
Yeah,
go see it.
phenomenal. But yeah, you see during the last episode with the group that was walking and talking with the daughter and their hammers, you got a few breadcrumbs there, and they talked about the prophet. And then during the interrogation scene, like they are having back and forth. So there's context clues. So they're not just keeping you completely in the dark. They're giving you enough to tell the story they want to tell in that moment. Um, but I think it's cool that they are focusing on the story they want to tell right now, giving you as much info about the divide between the two classes
Right.
to tell a good story, but they are not going to tell the whole
Show their
thing
hands,
until
right.
next season. I think that's awesome. I think the theme of this episode was suspense, just with the interrogation and well, again, talking about the skillets and you're not knowing what he's talking about and have a very low key, oh yeah, I wanted one of these pots, blah blah blah, and then seeing the situation, the suspense of first coming in contact with the voters in Seattle and not knowing if that was going to end in a shootout, then the interrogation, then you've got Ellie and Dina being having surprisingly low situational awareness with being in the town, a new town with the loud tank and wondering if that was going to bring them. And then going into that music store, the guitar thing didn't bother me too much, but even though it wasn't very loud, Dina playing the drums, I'm like, you want to die. That's
Right.
um and then obviously going into the TV station, seeing the dead bodies, seeing the guy that slowly died but called for backup just in time, and all of that leading to the train station and the horde coming in there. Like it's just suspense after suspense. Ellie getting bit and the suspense of, what's Dina gonna do in this situation? Like
Right.
all of it was suspense just at every part of the show. And I thought
Yeah.
that was good.
It was,
Um,
yes.
yeah.
It was very good. And because like if you're Dina, of course, like
Yeah.
wouldn't you're like, I'm sorry, this is I I'm already mourning you and
Right.
having to do this, but
Yeah.
I
She reacted appropriately, which it was
right,
funny because, like you said, Ellie didn't even realize it because she knows she's immune. She's been immune. She's gone on a cross-country road trip already, where you can assume maybe she's gotten. Well, she got bit in the first or second episode,
sure.
and she's
And
gotten
Dina
bit.
joked about it,
Yes,
like, oh, do you bit? Do I have to shoot you in the head? And
yeah.
you're like,
So she didn't think anything of it, and coming out of that high-stress situation to turn around and see your friend lover pointing a gun at you, it was very interesting seeing Ellie's face because at first I'm like, Ellie, you should know why she's doing this. But then I was like, oh no, this was an afterthought to you.
Right.
Like
Like
you
it's
didn't
the,
even
oh, I
consider
better
it.
talk and talk quick.
Yeah. That
It's like,
was a very good scene. I will say I remember the game. I forgot that Dina was pregnant until she threw up last episode when they
yeah,
saw the first set of dead bodies. That immediately I was like, oh yeah, she's pregnant. So I kind of knew at that point, I remembered at that point. I will say some of their conversations annoy me, which is fine. I'm not like hating on them as a couple. I liked the relationship and back and forth between Joel and Ellie better
sure,
than Dina and Ellie. And I think it adds a not a weird, but it adds a dynamic of them being young lovers that are dropped in the middle of a revenge tour. That not that it takes me out of it, but it does change the pacing a bit from time to time.
sure.
Um, I obviously we speak people have their thoughts about all of it. I am okay with their relationship. I just think if I'm comparing the last two seasons, the back and forth between two characters, I enjoyed Joel and Ellie's back and forth and their growing trust for each other a little more than I do with this one. But I still think the the standoff between them was just so well done, so well acted by both of them. Just
Well,
the
mhm.
facial expressions and the slow movements of the camera, and like everything about that night of Dina being like, "You're telling me one thing, and I don't want to kill you. Said I'm already mourning you. Are you just saying this because you don't want to die?" And it was that was outstanding.
And you kind of wonder at what point, because she was very quick to, I don't want to say she was quick to accept it because we don't know how many hours passed after between her being bit and then her waking up and seeing her, but
Right.
she did. And is there going to be at any point where she's going to be like, how long have you known that you've been immune? And why
Right.
did you not feel the need to ever tell me, the town,
Yeah.
anybody? Like, did Joel know? Is that part
Yeah,
of your,
there has to be more conversations that are coming. And
right,
again, I realize they were probably about to have that conversation that next morning, and then that's when Fedra or WLF showed up. I think that next morning.
the next morning
No,
was
they
the
heard the
bombing.
explosions. That's
Hmm.
what it was. So I believe the conversation will happen, but they're in a tough place right now because they are in Seattle now. Had it
Right,
been on the road trip from Jackson to Seattle, they probably would have that conversation on horseback. But now it's like you're in the trenches,
right,
so it's going to be
right,
tough to fit that conversation in there, but it has to happen.
right. And they have to now like fight through. They don't know how many people are in Seattle, how many people are fighting. They know that
Right.
both sides are beyond brutal
Yes.
and killing each other for, like, instead of like, hey, let's all band together and really fight the real enemy here. Everybody, it's become the toilet paper situation, every man
Yeah.
for themselves. And they it that they should, we all know where this, for some of us all know where the story's going. It isn't like they're going to, they watch that and they're like, you know what, we're in love, we got this baby, we're actually going to head back now, this seems really too risky, that the show would be over.
Right. It's interesting to see them dealing with an organized militia because I know Fedra existed
Right,
in the city where Joel was, and they kind of
right,
lived under that. But Ellie and Joel, at least that I can remember, didn't really go to war with Fedra in the first game. They mostly dealt with raiders, and raiders
right.
had, depending on what city they were in, had a level of organization. But as far as I can remember, this is the first time that they have dealt with like this group, like automatic weapons, bulletproof gear, helmets, walkie-talkies, where they took
Thanks,
out a group
yes,
of six of them and they were hanging them and they called for backup.
right,
And there were six, seven, eight more on the way with automatic weapons that were trained. You talked about how I've never seen a tank before up close, which I had to call BS on that one. I'm pretty sure at some point in the first game, as you're going from city to city, there were tanks not being used, but there were tanks there, but
right.
whatever. But it is interesting, like this, and you saw like Ellie at moments like, I want to bum rush, I want to go up there. And Dina was the one that was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If you've got to sign that big advertising, you want people to know you're there. Plus, you're elevated like 500 feet in the air. Like, they're going to see us coming. Like, Ellie was really approaching this, whether it was from lack of experience with a military group or just revenge,
I
she
think
was
that's it.
approaching this all wrong.
I think you've seen her even like in the planning for the trip. She's
Yeah,
very just
true.
impulsive, just not didn't think. And Deana's the one that has to come in and be like, "So where are you going?
Yeah.
Northwest, and how are you gonna get? Like you have to. So like I get it. I'm there with you 100%. However, your desire to charge in guns blazing is gonna get both of us killed,
Yeah.
and you won't have accomplished what you wanted
That's
to."
true, which is also why Dina didn't tell her originally because she got mad. Like, you didn't tell it. We're 3 months behind. And Dina's like, you had broken ribs and were in a coma. Me
Right.
telling you I know where they are wouldn't have done anyone any good at
She
that
says
moment.
you would have pulled out the tubes and you
Yeah.
would have been trying,
You would have
like, and
limped
what
your
could
way
you
to
have done
Seattle and you would have died 3 days later.
if?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, a great episode in showing because I mean, I do believe the other group that I mean, like we've seen before, but we haven't dealt with in a while. We know that Eugene is part of that. Is that still
The
the
Fireflies.
Fireflies? So there's still another group that's involved.
Kind of, because Abby used to be a Firefly, but she's part of WLF now. So I think I think they had said there were only a group of Fireflies left, and Joel went one man army on them and eliminated like pretty much all of the ones that were left
Okay.
in Colorado. So
Okay.
then the group, after they buried the people from Colorado, they made their way to Seattle. How they got in their good graces, I'm not sure exactly,
Right.
but I think they
But
joined
they were already WLF members, right? Because she talks about being in the training and they had the patch on the bag because that's
at the
how
point where they killed Joel, yes, but when
yes.
they buried them 5 years prior, they were still
Right,
Fireflies.
right, right.
Yeah, but
So they
yeah, it
have
was yeah,
joined the WLF in from the time that
yeah.
they were that burying them and deciding to go out. I mean, because it didn't take them 5 years to bury them, did it?
No, this was like they buried them like the day after.
Right.
But at their net, I think Abby mentioned like there are no Fireflies left. Like that was
Okay.
it. So they were like, okay, well, our whole group is dead,
At
so let's
least
go.
there, right? Because
Yeah,
there were Fireflies, I believe they weren't they the resistance group in where Joel was from.
that's true.
So I
Yeah,
mean, they might
I'm
be
sure someone
like
in the
pockets
comments
of
will
right.
know, but yeah,
So I mean, like there are definitely several factions all warring.
yeah. And Fedra still exists in other cities as well, because in
Right,
Boston, where the game started, Fedra was still alive and well.
right.
And the
So
infected, we kind of also them, like
right,
they're still there and they're revolving.
right, yeah. And I mean, like, and I know you said you did actually watch the trailer or at least like some previews for, and
Yes,
that they're going to introduce the whole concept of spores, which
yes.
has not even come up into this. But I mean, like for anybody that doesn't know, it's more airborne that they're going to allude to and how this is all just changing and evolving and really like I mean like me I'd be like I am not fighting this is too much it's too much to try to stay
Yeah.
alive.
We've talked about that, and everyone's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to build this apocalypse team. We're going to do this. Like, I'm all for it, but eventually you reach a point where you're just done fighting. And I can get on board with, though, like, if they bite you, I can combat that. Like, I'll wear long sleeves and all of that.
Right.
Once it gets to the airborne phase, I'm giving up. You can call me a coward, but like, how do you beat that? The moment they're like, it's airborne now, I'm like, cool. We had a good run. We did the best we could. We're not beating this one.
They're outpacing us now at this
Yeah.
point like we might want to consider giving up.
Yeah. It like yeah, you tell me it's airborne, I'm done.
Right, so that's a lot of like we talked a lot about Ellie and Dina. Let's hit on more of Isaac
Yes.
and um kind of his he's you know how like people always say you've done a full 360 when actually they meant a 180, but in this
Ah,
case
yes.
right I know but I think in this case you could almost make a case for he's done a
Oh,
360.
he's done a 360. Yes. Yeah. He became what he was so against, which speaks to Well, you could argue like that's what happens when you're dropped in an apocalypse, which like sure, but also Jackson existing and thriving also shows like no, there's different ways to go about it, but
Right,
yeah, he has taken over the WLF or started it, owns it, runs it, very strict, very militaristic. They don't they don't mess around, but it's like yeah, you see this radicalized individual in the tank when he turns his on his group like because you can
right,
kind of see this was like his moment like he had clearly been in contact with the voters but this was his act of defiance that
right.
got him out of Fedra because like his whole little not even monologue but his statement we took away their right to vote we did this he sees them laughing like you see a guy that's like a freedom fighter
You're right.
and then yes does a full 360 he goes on the journey and he is now what he was out seeking to destroy and I'm sure his belief is well the Seraphites led us to do it and then along with the infected it's like we got to be strict we got to do this we got to do that and it's like okay so what's the difference.
Which is crazy because he gets onto the one soldier at the very opening scene about kind of like not seeing the voters as even kind of human. And
Yes.
then you see his progression as he's done torturing the one Seraphite in the kitchen and um his Padawan, in a
Yeah,
sense, who's standing outside says good, like they're nothing but basically like they're nothing but animals, they're not
yeah,
human. So you're already back at now you're seeing a completely different group as inhumane or inhuman and not worth, and I will even say there's even in the Seraphite group, when you see the father and daughter talking about and they're talking about the prophet and the daughter says something, but the father alludes to, like she's just a woman. She was here. She, like nothing. And then you have Isaac interrogating the one Seraphite. He's got chained up in the kitchen, and he says, there's some people that don't even see this person as, you know, like all powerful. And
yeah.
the response was heretic. So there's even like even in that Seraphite group, there's people
There's
that can't
division within the
right can't
Seraphite group.
agree on
Yeah,
what this prophet is and represents and how powerful they are and should they be, maybe there's some peaceful ones, maybe there's some less peaceful ones. Yeah,
yeah. And you just see how far not far gone but how locked in is such a Gen Z term, but how dedicated that one was to the cause. Because like he is being interrogated, he's putting his hand out and burning him, and while he's threatening him in his Jeffrey Wright threatening voice, standing over this guy, he just sticks his hand out. Like this guy was prepared to be tortured and die, and you see, like he is so far gone, I guess you could say,
oh
or
yeah,
so
he's
deep
bought
into
in.
his
Yeah.
belief that he is okay with being tortured and dying, and he's not even gonna fight you. Like, you're going to torture me, like, here's my arm, and you see Jeffrey Wright's like, oh, well, this is a waste of my time.
Right, and then just shoots him, and that's
Yeah.
when, yeah, you see the kid who he gave the choice to at the beginning standing out in the hall, and the one seems a little shaken by it, and he's like, "Ooh, like that's a good thing that's over." And he's, the other one's replies is like, they're less than,
So
they're
he's just
beneath.
restarting the cycle. Like, he is now creating more people that are just like the people that he blew up at the beginning of the episode. Like,
Right.
it truly was really well done, kind of just showing I say the descent into madness, but just
Yes.
the all of yeah, the descent into madness as you become the people's champion into the people's
Right.
nightmare.
Yeah, you
Like,
become what you hate, and
yeah,
like he would have been much better off he probably would have flourished in a community like Jackson, but instead he's
yeah,
in a war zone where it's pretty much every man for themselves. They decided not to build a community. They decided to rule with an iron fist, and there's nothing that's flourishing outside of the infected, it seems
yeah.
like. And I mean, and again, these Seraphites aren't unarmed because they're, well, I mean, well, that or the WLF, everybody is kind of armed in some sort of fashion. You kind of wonder how the Seraphites got those people hung up and gutted with their hammers that apparently they only have. But
They have bolt action rifles, so they do have guns, but like
okay,
the slower ones, like they're not using
okay,
automatic weapons and then bows and arrows. And yeah, you saw that one guy when they first walked in with four arrows in him, and then yeah, they overpowered a group of militarized insurgents and strung
right.
them up. Like that, it's interesting. And then when I saw the explosions, I literally turned to Sarah. I was like, "Who's blowing up who? Like, how are y'all not say losing, but how are you in a war right now? Like, I
Yeah,
feel like y'all
and
should be
aren't you
mopping the
worried?
floor with these guys."
And aren't you worried about garnering the attention of the infected?
Yeah, I mean, you lit the flares and you brought a whole horde. Now you're blowing stuff up. Like, what's that gonna do?
Right. Like you're like, well, this ought to, I mean, this should end well. I mean, like there's we won't get their attention here. Or, like were they working together and blowing? That wasn't happening, that they were working
Right.
together to blow up stuff, but yeah, so it was a pretty and it was like a slow burn, but at the same time like an intense episode
Yeah. A
all
slow
in
burn in
one.
the sense of the main story that we're following is a revenge story. And in that case, I don't feel like they're any closer to where they wanted to be
Because how do you
at the
find
beginning
her?
of the
They did hear the
episode.
name Nora over the
Okay, they did hear
walkie-talkie.
the name Nora, but yeah, as far as advancing, like they didn't gain anything, but it still was a very suspenseful episode. So it was like a slow burn mixed with so much happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Seattle's kind of like a great, it's like their setting is the setting of the city is like a visual, it kind of reflects like just what is going on with everybody at the moment.
Yeah.
Like it's everybody is divided. Everybody is the whole eye for an eye will leave the world blind. Like everybody is attacking everybody. And it's like, at what point do you guys focus on the horde again, like the infected again? Are you
Yeah, it's
so
almost like the horde that destroyed the world has taken a back seat, which is wild to say, but that's what's happening.
yeah, that was yeah, lots of moral ambiguity like
Yeah.
going on. It's like who's there because you don't know who's there's no I don't want to say there's just like no good people in this, but I mean, in a sense, you've got Ellie and Dina who are on their way to kill a girl who killed her father, who killed her father,
Yeah.
who are in a group who are fighting against Fedra, who were ruling over just everyday citizens who are also attacking some religious fanatics. There's
Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
also gutting.
It's wild. And I know in the game, there were mission after Abby killed Joel, everybody was like, yeah, we hate Abby. We want her to die, and anyone that's affiliated with her. They forced you to play missions and parts of the game as Abby and showed her journey
Hmm.
to the point that by the end of it, you didn't necessarily hate her. Like some people still did, but they showed their humanity.
Right,
And even some people within WLF who they think they're just trying to survive.
right.
But yeah, it's very interesting that you look at it and there really isn't a good team. And you can argue Ellie and Dina are the good guys, but like you said, they're going to kill someone who killed someone that you cared about. But why did that group that killed the person you care about, why did they do it? It's like, oh, because he killed the person that she cared about. And it's like, oh, well, why did he do that? Well, they were going to kill her, which goes back to the whole they were
Right,
looking for a cure for humanity. Whether and
right,
the writers, the developers of the game left it up to you to determine like, did you even think like would the cure have worked or not?
right, right. Yeah,
So
you
yeah,
don't get
it's
that
like
clear answer.
yeah. So I can understand from Abby and WL, well, WLF doesn't really know per se, but from Abby's perspective, is Joel really a good guy? That dude went scorched earth to save one person who could have saved humanity, but he decided it wasn't worth the risk. So he killed 18 people.
Right.
Is he still the good guy? Like
Right.
I know we love Pedro and we love Joel and Ellie. Like I get it, but I'm not gonna sit here and be like, no, that was the greatest guy. He was the best man ever. Like, can kind of see why Abby wanted to kill him.
Right. I mean, that's and we still haven't gotten to Eugene's story where he
Right.
Joel apparently kills him, or maybe he
Yeah.
was protecting Ellie. We don't know. We don't know that. But they have killed not just those fireflies, but they've killed several people on this, journey with each other. And we just liked their interaction and their
Yes.
dynamic. So we decided to be like, well, we can overlay, much like anything, any of these moral am ambiguous stories where it's like, well, okay, but we like them. We
Right.
know them. We're comfortable with them, so they
We
can't
can
be all bad.
justify their war
Right.
crimes. It was like, the Star Wars, the Clone Wars. I think Anakin and Ahsoka were great. The amount of war crimes that these people committed episode to episode.
See, I mean, we start off the entire series with Joel losing his daughter, so you're
Yes.
instantly put into that and put into his spot, and everything. Like if you're a parent, everything after that becomes sort of justified in your
Yeah.
mind. So it's like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Okay, we only got 3 episodes left, five, six, seven, right? We're doing only seven.
I think it's
Isn't
only
that what we
seven.
said? Yeah. So what would you give this episode? What's your rating for this episode?
I say it was a B plus. Um, maybe an A minus. Like it wasn't the greatest piece of television ever. I thought the suspense was great. I thought the acting performances were great.
Sure.
I think the only reason why I put it at a B plus or an A minus is because even though a lot happened, I feel like the journey didn't advance any, which is fine because it wasn't a boring episode,
Sure.
but it's kind of like, okay, like a lot happened, but nothing happened.
Sure. And I mean, like, this is like aside from, do we know if some of those did any of the WLF members make it out of that subway?
Oh no, they all died.
Okay, they all died. So no, it's back to nobody knowing that these two.
Yes, but after they left the music shop, the shot lingered on the guitar that Ellie was playing and she left it set on there. Every other guitar that was out was moldy and had been in the elements. This one was fresh, clean. If you had put it back in the box and closed it, no one would have noticed it. If anyone goes and checks, they will see a guitar
Sitting out.
on sitting out, and you could argue that one of your WLF people found it and played it, maybe. But you also would be like, okay, well, did we have anyone in this sector recently? And when we checked this sector last time, as we're very strict, we didn't take a break to go strum a guitar. So, and it lingered on it for like half a second.
Right.
It could just be because it was a cool backdrop, because it was like a nice guitar with the backdrop of like everything grown
Right.
over. Like that could have been the reason, but it lingered on it for just a second too long. And I was like, that's how they're going to know someone's there.
I would also
But
have to
they've
go
also
back.
moved away from that. Like,
Right.
I don't know.
I would also have to go back and listen to what exactly was the radio transmission that they heard the name Nora. Were they talking about the girls being there? Were they talking about the Seraphites?
I think they were talking about the Seraphites and they were just
Okay.
saying, let's get back to Nora. So maybe Nora was in the watchtower at that moment. Like
Okay.
in the last episode, it was one of the guys that I think we knew, but he was on guard duty in the watchtower. Um,
Because it'll be interesting because like if they go back and find a body, they're gonna find somebody stabbed. But like will they blame those bodies, the WLF murders on? Will they just think it's the scars slash Seraphites?
right.
At what point will I mean the scars might stumble upon Ellie and Dina and wonder whose side they're on. It's it's gonna get messy.
Yeah.
For sure. I would give it like I'm with you. I think a B plus is good because I was kind of actually lingering with like B plus because I'm like I do like it's there's I couldn't care less that it was oh my God, it's two women. Don't that doesn't bother me at all. It's just I don't I understood the them laying there and talking about and their feelings and um talking about like, well, like I'm not as brave as you, and I saw this future with that. I get all that. It's just I think after everything they had gone
Yes.
through,
Okay. That's what
I
it
felt
was.
like there was like a different conversation that needed to be had. But it's
The
like I get
emotions didn't line up with the situation.
right. Like
I
you
felt the
just
same way.
you just escaped a I mean, there's so many things about that previous night that should be processed that you guys didn't discuss. You should be discussing, oh my God, who are these people who are the gutters, who are the gutties, who attacked us?
The
Like,
horde,
yeah, the
you got
horde,
bit.
all of these
Yes.
dead Fedra, soldiers that were outside the tank, and like they were over like these people with
They were
military
killed. They were
equipment.
not infected. They were killed as humans.
Right. I'm saying like they were overpowered with their
Yep.
military equipment. Like I just like I trust I am this is not me saying like "Ugh, there's no place for like that
Yes.
is do I do not care. The I will say this is how much I do not care because I just wish they would have had a different conversation.
That's what
Conversation.
I was trying to figure out how to say it. I am right there with you. I realize, and people will say emotions are running high because like she knew she was pregnant, she was keeping that secret. A lot happens was kind of just that like heat of the moment type of thing. Like I get what you're saying, but also no. That just isn't good enough for me because there is way too much happening. You are you don't know enough about what's going on in your immediate surroundings to be able to have this conversation and this intimate moment.
No.
And like it's no, even if like, well, I thought you were
No.
gonna die. Like to me, it doesn't matter because yes, you have way too many questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, like a WTF, you got bit. Why did like what like let's go over this. Like we will
Yes,
if we get out of this mess, we will talk about our long range plans and what we're going to do about this baby and blah 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 blah, and you can announce that you're going to be a father then. I Congratulations, you've made it out of Seattle. But
it
right
was
now
it.
you
Yeah,
have more pressing things to worry about.
it goes back to I've said before. My biggest pet peeve in TV and film is when the characters that are in an intense situation seem to not understand they are in an intense situation. And again, I know people will say your lover telling you that she's pregnant in that moment is an intense situation. Like I'm not taking away from that and I can believe that. But again, you just got bit. She's still coming to terms with that. A bunch of dead Fedra agents, a bunch of skinned WLF agents who attacked who did this, how is this happening? The horde that we just barely escaped. We like we got bit. That's how close it was. Like one of us
Right.
got bit. There was way too much going on for that to be the conversation. I'm not against them having that conversation,
No.
but that was not the time or the place. And that like sucked me out of the scene for a moment, and I was not a fan.
No. 100% with you. Like again, don't I like we are not being bigots. We are not being anti-homosexual.
Right.
This is not it. We would have thought the same thing if it would have been a straight couple laying there
Yes.
talking about how much in love they are when so much crap had just within hours had happened. You need to be processing other things. We understand that you're in your 20s
Yes.
and we can both can look back and go, yeah, in your 20s, you're probably not thinking very clear, but no, that's
Yeah.
you also grew up a lot faster than everybody else
Right. Right.
during an apocalypse kind of time. So yeah, that like I said, that's the only reason I was like leaning like B plus because I was like that thing I'm with you. Like it just kind of like, wait a minute, like this is not the conversation I want us
Yeah.
to be having right now. Like glad you guys are in love and I'm glad you guys found this, but I
Yeah.
like
No, and that's what I was saying earlier, like
survive.
the pacing of their friendship relationship. I realize you want to add depth to the characters,
Right.
similar to how Joel and Ellie. became the father-daughter figure as they had conversations and stuff. But like they weren't talking about, oh, your daughter and this when they were in the middle of a firefight. Those are the conversations that happen when you were riding your horse through
Right,
whatever empty cities you were in. And unfortunately, because they kind of just skipped to they're in Jackson. They did the one scene when they were
right,
traveling and in the tent, but after that, that was it. And now you're in Seattle. You lost that windshield time, per se, to have those conversations and developments at an appropriate time. So now you're
right.
forcing that growth and development in the absolute worst time. And yes, that it just it that did not work for me.
Good. I'm glad we agree on that. If you agree with us, if you don't agree with us, if you don't tell us that we're just, old stodgy stodgers
Yeah.
and just, but wait, we're action fanatics. We want like, let's deal with the situation at hand. Like,
Yeah.
there's just some things that conversations should be had at a certain time, and I believe all of those events leading up to that moment kind of should have been discussed over, like, oh, well, I hope we live together. Girl, you got to make it out of this mess
Right, you
first.
got to get out first.
Like, you let's deal with
If you want to quit
everything
the mission
new.
and go back, we can have that discussion.
Right.
But if we're continuing the mission,
Right. Yeah, if we're continuing the mission, all of this new information should definitely be discussed beforehand. So,
yes.
yeah, let us know what you think. And we will be back hopefully Sunday after the fifth one. As long as there's nothing, everything was kind of apparently Rihanna's pregnant again. Um,
You know what? That doesn't even surprise me. That does not even surprise me. She's
so
yeah.
there you go. Hey, and you
Good
can
for
catch us.
him.
You can catch us
ASAP Rocky, you're a lucky dude, all right?
entertainment spot here. Will tweets a lot of or posts a lot of good stuff on TikToks that it garners a lot
Yes.
of good conversation. He will be, I'm sure, mentioning and talking about a little bit of Andor and what's going on, and you can comment there. It's the way they're just kind of releasing it right now. It's a little hard for us to talk about it on a podcast, but maybe we'll talk about it like after the entire thing is, and we'll just kind of give an overview, like of what we thought of the season
Yeah.
in general. But yeah, a good episode. I'm kind of looking forward to what happened next. It's seems it's gonna be like a real short one, and kind of wonder how it's gonna end, if we even get to see that confrontation with Abby at the end of this one or not.
Yeah,
But
I'm very curious because I know that they said they're splitting the second game into two parts. I remember them saying that. So I'm
yeah,
ready for that, but I'm curious how they're going to end. What's the cliffhanger going to be?
right, you're right, right, yeah. So we will be back with you all next week. So
Yes.
until then, bye.